What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy, and I wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up on my previous video about how our culture has trust issues and that sort of stuff. A friend of mine made a pretty good comment on there, saying a lot of it comes down to a combination of, like, news media sensationalism and kind of a bit of ignorance on our parts. Now, when it comes to the news media sensationalizing things, that has been a thing for a while now. I don't know when exactly this idea got started, but for decades now, the main idea of really any kind of media, whether it's TV, internet, any kind of stuff like that, the idea is to hook you in and keep you interested. And so when it comes to news, especially TV news, the way that they try and do this is make it seem like all of these stories that they're presenting, all of these news items that they're putting out there, that they all could potentially directly affect you. Because it's a lot more likely that if you don't really have any stake in this, then you're not going to be interested and you're going to turn away. And, you know, they do this because of, like, ratings and just making money, basically. That's, like, the money-making model when it comes to media these days, is how long are these people tuned in? And, you know, also, in a sense, how much can we convince sponsors and advertisers to buy out this time frame for putting their commercials out here? And so, with that being the main goal of media these days, they're not entirely presenting the whole truth in a lot of matters. They're not necessarily outright lying all the time, but they'll give you kind of a skewed version of the truth and, you know, make it seem like, oh, this stuff happens all the time, all around you, so you need to be worried and, you know, you need to be aware of what's going on and keep tuning into us so you can hear more about what's going on and so you know what to watch out for. And I think really the news in particular have been especially, they've been especially good catalysts of the whole mass paranoia that I talked about in the previous video. You know, they've been putting forth all these especially negative news stories that make you lose faith in humanity, so to speak. They make you not trust the people around you because there's all this dangerous stuff going on all the time and you need to constantly watch your back. And again, it's not necessarily outright lies all the time, but they make it seem like more of a threat than it really is in most situations. And then, as far as the ignorance on our part, some of that comes down to, I think, trusting too much in news media. It's been kind of assumed for a couple generations now that what you see on the television, you know, the news that you watch on the television is reliable and trustworthy, and any information that they give you, you can take it to the bank. But especially nowadays, that's becoming less and less of a thing. News stations are far more biased than they've ever been before, and especially if you get your news on the internet, Lord knows how many different internet websites can lead you astray. I mean, really, a lot of them will skew a story at least a little bit and give their own biased take on it, especially if it's anywhere near politically charged. If there's any political stuff going on in a news item, whether online or not, but especially if you see it online, all these websites are going to put their spin on it. You know, if they're a liberal-leaning site or television station, they're going to put a spin on it to make the Democrats look good, Republicans look bad, and vice versa, with Republicans trying to make themselves look good and Democrats look bad. But I've talked way too many times about political spin, and I don't think I need to get real deep into that right now. But, so when I initially did that video on us having trust issues and that kind of stuff, if I'm completely transparent, the main story that was going on in the back of my mind as I was talking about that was the Supreme Court hearings about Brett Kavanaugh and all that whole spiel about, you know, did he or did he not rape this woman back when he was like a teenager? All this chaos that's been going on around that situation. And I brought up the whole trust thing specifically because people seem to just assume that, you know, without even really having much information or, you know, hearing much of the findings of the court cases or any significant, really, information from anywhere, that, you know, people will just kind of jump to conclusions. A fair number of women, I'm not going to say a lot, but a fair number of women just kind of stepped up and assumed and, you know, said or posted stuff online about how, you know, oh, men do these kinds of things all the time. It's this rape culture that we have going on where, you know, we talk about boys being boys and we let them think they can get away with whatever they want. And this just further proves that because he's getting away with this right now when he shouldn't be. Again, without necessarily having a ton of information on the matter. And then, flip side of that coin, there were a lot of people, especially Republican men, I will say. But there were also people on the other end of the spectrum saying that, oh, this woman's a liar. Why did she wait like 30 years to talk about this? She should have mentioned something back when it happened. And, you know, she's just a liar and she's trying to get money out of this or, you know, manipulate the situation or something like that. And we just, again, we inherently have these trust issues where we don't assume that people have good intentions on either side. And I think when it comes to matters like this in particular, really as a whole, you know, it helps if you don't jump to conclusions. It helps if you actually take some time, look some stuff up, get some information. But a lot of us are lazy and we don't want to do that. That's another reason why we're kind of ignorant of a lot of things that go on either around us or especially in the political realm. A lot of us are ignorant on that because we don't really know much about how all that works. Again, I think a lot of times we jump to conclusions and we'll judge too quickly. And my mind continues to go back to a few particular Bible verses. I know for those of you who are not religious, this might seem like I'm bringing in something that's my own spin on matters, but just hear me out on this one. So, if you look in the Bible, Matthew chapter 7, these are some of my favorite verses. Probably this is actually my favorite set of verses within the Bible. So it's Matthew 7, the first 5 verses, and they essentially talk about not judging, because if you judge other people, you'll get judged in a similar manner. And I think that is showing itself quite apparently within this whole Brett Kavanaugh case, where one side is judging the other and the second side is judging the first just the same way. I mean, they're not saying exactly the same things, but the measure and the extremity of the judgment is essentially the same. They want to completely discredit each other and point out evil intentions within the other side. And if you look a little more specifically into these next few verses in Matthew 7, I think it gives us some pretty helpful advice on how we can kind of combat against that. And also, I think in general, how we can help fix some of the trust issues just in society in general. So if you start at verse 3, it says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." And what that means is basically that rather than point out every single tiny little flaw in someone else, we need to examine ourselves first and look at our own intentions, our own actions, and the things that we say and do. Because ultimately, if we look at ourselves, we're in no position to be judging other people that we don't know. We need to examine ourselves and try to better ourselves before we judge other people and blame them for what's going on either in the world around us or specifically in our own lives. Because if we all worked harder to try and better ourselves and even just better each other, rather than being judgmental and pointing blame and, just kind of being judgmental without really taking any positive action, it's pointless. It just feeds into this culture of mistrust. And really, I think, again, along with trying to be aware, trying to really, kind of research and gain knowledge on different matters, I think those are really some of the best pieces of advice that we have to really kind of work against this assumed mistrust we have within our culture. If we know there are people around us who are, working on themselves to try and, correct their own mistakes, then, we kind of can assume a little more safely that these people have good intentions. But again, we have to work on ourselves individually. It's a lot easier to control yourself than to control other people. So I'd say that's probably step number 1 in fixing this whole trust issue problem that we have in our culture, is work on bettering yourself first. And, like I said, also kind of look into some things, like try and be more informed on various issues and just the situation surrounding you. And, the research part, I think, will also help get past some of the spin that you'll find. But be careful how you research it, because even just specific wording of things can kind of lead you down a particular slanted path toward the information you're looking for. But anyway, so, yeah, again, when it comes to being judgmental, especially in this case of should we trust women or not when they come forward with these stories, I think really judgment should be saved for when we actually have more information and when we can, sit and calmly look at our own intentions and, then we can come in and approach the situation less biased and certainly less hostile. therefore making it easier to not just jump to an extreme conclusion on any of this. But anyway, so that's all I've got for now. Let me know down below if you have any other thoughts related to this, or if you have any other stuff you'd like me to talk about. Leave a comment below the video. And, you know, if you like this and, you know, you think I made some good points here, if there was some stuff you hadn't thought about before, maybe give the video a like, share it to other people to spread the word. If you're looking for more stuff from me, subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. That should give you updates when I post new stuff. I say should. I hear it doesn't always. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All that's going to be down in the description just below the video. Facebook and Twitter in particular are good for keeping up with what I do here, because anytime I post a video on YouTube, I'm also sharing it to those pages. So that's really all I've got. I hope you're all doing well. Hopefully we can maybe work together to try and fix some of the trust issues that we have moving forward. I know it would be a slow-moving process at best, but I'm just trying to help, I guess. I'm trying to point stuff out, make you aware of it, and maybe also give some advice for things that we can do to maybe fix that moving forward. But anyway, yeah. Hopefully we can work on these issues. But in any case, like I said, I hope you're doing well. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Stay cool, people.